Hi guys, it's Charles here with Charles Harrison Music. I've had quite a bit of interest on my recent live video which was about my picking breakthrough, so I thought I'd share with you some more specific picking examples. And this, you could sort of view this video as a picking practice routine. Now the way I like to practice is not to sit down with a metronome and sit there for an hour playing these things on repeat. I find that very dull. The way I like to practice these things is just to make an active effort to include them in my playing generally. So if I'm working on my improvising, I'll try and include these picking patterns in there. Now, just to briefly recap, I'll put a card up here, maybe, or maybe up here, wherever there's a card. That'll take you to the live video. It's quite a long video. The summary of that video was that there are only 4 possible picking patterns your right hand can do. That's either an odd number of strings on a string pair, so odd odd, an even number of strings on a string pair, so even even, and then the combination of odd even and even odd. And that is it. Now, any picking phrase that you come across that's challenging, you will find that it's one of those things there, that when that picking phrase becomes challenging, you'll find it'll be one of these. It'll either be an odd number of notes to an even number of notes that's challenging you, or any of the other 4. If you've already rehearsed these 4 picking patterns very, very frequently, you're very confident with them, then in theory there is no picking phrase that you won't be able to play. So here's some great practice things that you can do. So the first one is going to be odd odd. Okay, now there's only 2 things we can really do with odd odd. It's either 1 note per string or 3 notes per string. Now I can do 5 notes per string, but like a chromatic thing like this. But it's not something we would generally do, although of course you can practice 5 and 5 if you'd like to. However, when we play 5 notes per string, it's more commonly that it's something like a 3 note phrase going up and back down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is one way we can do this. However, let's start with 1, 1. So 1, 1, the nicest phrase you can do is just if you take your standard E-shaped bar chord, that's an A chord there, and you just pick the first 4 notes. About my limit there. So it's a really Steve Morse sort of sound. These are so difficult, guys. If I'd seen that on paper, I would have thought that was the easiest thing in the world. That's what Mr. Grady calls cross picking. You can also add the 9th to that if you'd like. That's 1 note per string. And of course, you can build up to that just with the first 2 strings. Get as fast as you can first 3 strings. It's like picking through sludge, this, guys, and this is why you need to practice this. If you watch those Cracking the Code videos, our boy Troy will explain why that's the case. So that's one of them, 1 note per string. Now there's so many different patterns you can do. Of course, you can do the classic John Petrucci, 5, 6, 7, 8 on each string. You do that sort of thing. But 1 note per string is essential, you need to be practicing that. So the second combination of odd odd would be 1 note to 3 notes, or 3 notes to 1 note. So a nice way to do that would be to have a phrase like, let's start with a 1 note to a 3 note. I like this 9 sort of sound in a blues shape, which would be. That works nicely over an A minor chord. Oh dear. Again, pretty tough. That's 9 on the D string to 5, 7, 8 on the G string. The final odd odd would be 3 and 3, which would be just your classic scale shape. Major scale or minor scale, doesn't matter. You can get that as fast as you can. Okay, so that's odd odd done. Even even. Now even even, there's only 2 options. It's either 2s or 4s. So that would be like, I think the last video I showed you a 5/7 pattern. just 2 notes per string. You can go all the way up the pentatonic with a similar phrase. Oh dear. Something along those lines. 4/4, well 4/4 again, there's not much you can do other than the classic chromatic shape, unless you're doing repeating ascending and descending phrases. The secret to getting those guys is the downward pick slant, so so you can see a bit of your palm and your tip of the pick is pointing towards your face and the top of the pick is pointing towards the floor. It's keeping them going that's tough. I find I can do a bar or two and then the fatigue starts to set in, so that's why I'm practicing these. Those are nice and easy, even in terms of the simple number of patterns. Finally, we've got our odds, evens and our evens, odds combinations. So let's start with the evens, odds, because there's a nice way of doing this. One thing that you can do is, and this is a bit tough, but I found this a really nice one. I use this on the on the A string if I'm doing an A minor pentatonic. That position 1, I'll be on the D string and I'll be on the A string and I'll go 5, 6, 7, then on the D string 5, 7, 5, 6, 7, 5, 7. Tough. Yeah, and then of course you can do the opposite of that. You could give, which will be your even odd, which will be 5, 7, 5, 6, 7, 5, 7 on the A string, 5, 6, 7 on the D string. Oh wait, stop being naughty, I've got a naughty cat here. Tearing up the sofa. Oi, cheeky! That's a nice one because you can use this pattern all around the, sorry, it's cat. You can use this pattern all around the pentatonic. That's the G string 5, 7, 8 to the B string 5, 8. So these are 5-note patterns. So these are going to become displaced over a 4/4 beat. And they're really hard to practice them. And the final one, which is just so basic that I couldn't believe that I couldn't do this very well. Odd to even or even to odd, it doesn't matter which way you do this, but this is just a major or minor triad, or a diminished, augmented, whatever you like. But if I just start on the 5th fret of the low E string, and I've got 5 on the E string, 4 and 7 on the A string. So difficult. And then the opposite of that would be 5 and 9 on the E string and then the 7. Same notes, but just rearranging them on the strings. 5, 9, 7 on the A string. And the final thing, of course, would be just single string picking. Trying to do it with a downward leaning pick, an upward leaning pick. I find an upward leaning pick so much easier. That's downward leaning. See, it's pretty slow. I mean, if I can play phrases at that speed, I'd be pretty happy, but it's not tremolo. Okay. So, hopefully you found those phrases useful. Like I say, please don't use the, well, I mean, if you're the sort who loves to sit down and get the metronome going and just jam away, brilliant, please do use those in this way. But don't use them in this way and then say, oh, I'm bored. The way to get these phrases integrated into your playing is to integrate them into your playing. And by which I mean, of course, put a backing track on, start jamming along, playing some musical phrases. Something along those lines. So if you could please hit that subscribe button, maybe share this video with someone who's struggling with their alternate picking. I'd really appreciate that. So thank you very much for your help and your continued support. I've got some really loyal fans here, which is absolutely fantastic. People who show up to every video and always leave a nice comment, which is great. I'm really delighted that hopefully something I'm saying is helping at least someone out there. So that's really nice. And I'll see you in the next one. Leave any comments for whatever you would like the next video to be. I've got a few ideas as always, but it's nice to know that I'm directly aiming my videos at people. So see you in the next one. Please like and subscribe. Share this video with anyone who would find it helpful. Take care. Cheers.